This is an ABC News special. The 92 Vote. Reporting from the ABC News Election Night Command Center in New York, David Brinkley and Peter Jennings.
Well, here we go again, David.
Here we go again.
Nice to have you. We were trying to figure out a little earlier how many votes we've counted together in the last 8 years.
Millions, millions, millions. I don't know how many.
Good evening to you and welcome to our full-scale election night coverage. We'll be here until it's over. It's 7 o'clock here in the East. The polls have just closed in 6 states, and in a minute we'll project the winners and the losers in those states. It's going to be an exciting evening, no doubt, just as it has turned out to be a momentous year. Not for many years have so many people been engaged by the political process. All across the country today, there appears to have been a monumental turnout. It's exciting because as we watch the decay and even the chaos in other parts of the world, Americans are out making individual choices. And it's been a momentous campaign because an overwhelmingly popular president has ended up fighting a fight he never imagined for his political future. Because a young political challenger is tonight within a whisker, perhaps, of becoming the first American president born after World War II. And because there aren't too many other places where a billionaire can reach deep into his pockets and decide he will lay claim to the highest political office in the land. And there is so much more to report tonight. The entire House of Representatives is up for grabs, a third of the Senate, 12 governor's chairs, and enough fascinating propositions which voters have put on the ballot in enough places that we will be busy late into the night. Our job here is to tell you who's won and why, if we can. We'll talk to the winners and the losers, review the past, and look to the future. By the way, there's so much interest worldwide in this election that this broadcast is going to 15 countries, including all across Russia, and so we welcome all of you. As I said, the polls have just closed. Let us get to our primary job, which is that of telling you who is winning or losing when we can. The polls have closed in Florida. Let's take a look. It is in Florida too close to call. 25 electoral votes, very important for President Bush, part of the Southern strategy. That is still too close to call. In Georgia, which last voted for a Democrat in 1980, we project that Governor Bill Clinton is the winner. You'll recall the Bush campaign running some very negative ads about Governor Clinton in the final days, but we project that Governor Clinton has won that state in the South. In Virginia, where President Bush won in '88, it is too close to call at this hour, 13 electoral votes. Same thing is true for South Carolina, which has voted Republican in 6 of the last 8 elections. It is too close to call at this hour. New Hampshire, on the other hand, we project goes to Governor Clinton. They last voted for a Democrat in 1964 for Lyndon Johnson, but before that, 1948. This is where it happened. This is where the message was that the economy was the issue of the year, and we project that New Hampshire has gone for Governor Bill Clinton. In Vermont, we also project that the winner is going to be Bill Clinton, and since 1860, Vermont has voted Republican in every election but one, and we give that to Governor Clinton. Now, Indiana president, he has been too close to call for the last hour or so, Dan Quayle's home state, but we now project that at the presidential level, the 12 electoral votes there will go to President Bush. There's no question, if you'd looked at the polls before this evening, it was an uphill struggle for President Bush. Based on the polls, at least, that's an important win in Indiana for President Bush tonight. And in Kentucky, where the polls closed about an hour ago, we still project it is too close to call. So, David, there we are. We're off and running.
We are off and running, and I'm now going to bring you up to date on some of the races for Congress, for the Senate specifically. Both parties were hopeful of improving their strength in the Senate so as to get through Congress whatever they wanted to get. Here's how it stands at the moment. We do not yet know who will gain and who will lose, but at the moment, beginning with Florida, where the polls are closed, as Peter just said, the incumbent Senator Bob Graham, we project, was re-elected. He is a freshman seeking his second term, immensely popular governor. He was opposed by Bill Grant, who couldn't raise enough money, drove around the state in a beat-up Jeep. It wasn't enough. Graham wins. In Georgia, the polls are closed. In the contest for the Senate, there's Wyche Fowler and Paul Coverdale. It is now too close to call. We will stay on top of it and give you the news when we have it. In South Carolina, Senator Fritz Hollings, who's been in the Senate almost forever, spent his campaign attacking those people in Washington, of whom he has been one for 26 years. However, that has not yet worked either, so it is too close to call. In New Hampshire, Senator Warren Rudman retired, as you may recall, and he is Now, John Rao, the millionaire former businessman, is running to take his place, and Judd Gregg, the former governor, is running, and this also is too close to call. In Vermont, it is not too close to call. Patrick Leahy, seeking a fourth term in the Senate, has a fourth term, and that's that. Patrick Leahy, the Democrat, re-elected in Vermont. The governorship in New Hampshire, also too close to call, is Deborah Arnie Arneson and Stephen Merrill, too close to call. In Vermont, we do, however, have a winner. Howard Dean, the incumbent, is the winner. Howard Dean, the Democrat, elected in Vermont for governor. Peter?
I was just thinking, listening there, having to talk about Vermont and other places, we'll get slowed down and tell an awful lot of stories this evening about all of these states and all of these races. Deborah Aronson, for example, who called for a rise in the state income tax, or sales tax rather, to take the relief off property tax, and still it's too close to call. Let us give you just a little tour of this place for a second. There's our big map up there with the electoral votes. It takes 270 electoral votes, as you know, and that's the way it counts as of now, with a lot too close to call. Governor Clinton has 20 electoral votes and President Bush has 12. One of the things that has impressed us all in this news division today, and I'm sure it's been true in every news division, is the perpetuation of voter interest, of voter engagement. Talking about voter turnout today, ABC's Jeff Greenfield, who's here with us in New York, you I know have been on the phone to scores of people all over the country tonight, and even you are stunned at some of the stories you're getting back.
And not easily stunned. You're absolutely right. We actually decided to do something new and talk to real people. And the fact is, no matter where we're calling, literally from Alabama to Alaska, the story is the same. In Florida, in one district where a gentleman named Daniel Webster is trying to be elected to the House, we're told we don't have to get out the vote, the campaign workers are telling us. Elderly people are waiting in 88-degree heat for 3 hours. We're bringing ice water to them. In Alabama, we're told that they've never seen turnout this great from Alabama to the Florida line. In Alaska, the same story. In Georgia, people waiting 2 hours in the hot sun. Now, we'll find out in several hours whether this makes for real events, that is real history. But it is clear that what we're hearing is something we haven't heard in a very long time. And it's maybe the story of the evening.
Yeah, in fact, Jeff, take a look. We've got a map here somewhere, or a graph at least, which shows what it looks like since 1960 on, because everybody's been talking about the lack of American engagement in the voter process. Right. What was the record year, 60?
In 1960, roughly 61.5% of the voting age population turned out for a very close Kennedy-Nixon contest. That was a generational shift. The Eisenhower World War II generals yielding to the privates. It's been going down virtually without cessation, and if what we're hearing tonight is true, it may tick up substantially.
Okay, Jeff, thanks. We'll be coming back to Jeff Greenfield many times in the course of this evening, and undoubtedly we will kick conventional wisdom in the head a few more times before this evening is over as well. In a moment, we'll come back and talk to ABC's Lynn Sherr, who analyzes and studies and passes on to the rest of us what the voters have been telling us in the exit polls. Stay with us.
November 3rd, 1992. All across the nation, votes are being cast to select the 42nd President of the United States of America. From ABC News, this is the 92 Vote. Brought to you by Chrysler Corporation. The 92 Vote will continue in a moment. From ABC News, this is the 92 Vote. Once again, David Brinkley and Peter Jennings.
Well, exit polls have been with us long enough now that I think everybody knows why we use them. We do not use them to tell you how people have voted, but how people have voted. And ABC's Lynn Sherr has been doing, what, your 8th year now, I think, on telling us why people voted and what they liked and what they didn't like?
Well, I wasn't going to count, but thanks anyway. Yeah, you know, it's just fascinating. I think it's one of the most fascinating parts of the evening because we get the real nitty-gritty about exactly why they cast their votes. And I want to take the moment now to explain a little bit of why President Bush is having such a tough time in Florida, a state, Peter, you called as a toss-up state. This is a state he did extremely well in 1988. The reason is that he is not doing well with voter groups that he won handily back in 1988. Let's start with the Florida independents. President Bush is getting only 28% of the Florida independents. Now, when you look at this number, think about the fact that 4 years ago he got twice as much, 56% of the Florida independent voters. Just to show you what's going on, Bill Clinton is getting 38% of the Florida independents, and Ross Perot is coming in with 34%. That explains a lot about why Mr. Bush is having a tough time in Florida. Now, when we look at the national picture, the real issue, of course, tonight is the economy. We asked voters which were the most important issues. 43% of them said the economy. That is twice as high as those who said the next important issue, but that's the deficit, 22%. And after that, at 21%, is health care. Finally, in New Hampshire, a state that we have called for Mr. Clinton, that economic issue is cutting very strong. We asked voters the Reagan question: are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? Only 14% said they were better off. 44% said they were worse off than they were 4 years ago. 41% say we're about the same. And when you look at this 44% number, most of them, about 60%, voted for Bill Clinton. Peter?
Lynn, just a general question. You don't necessarily have to go to your buttons there for a second, but on the character question, how are people responding to the character of the candidates?
It's not showing up on our polling, Peter. It's simply not an issue that voters are voting on. They have strong feelings about it. We'll tell you some more about that later, but it is not the issue that they're voting on.
Okay,
Peter?
And you're picking up this enormous turnout of people as well, about everywhere you look?
I beg your pardon, Peter?
Are you picking up this enormous turnout everywhere of people you look?
Yeah, you know, exit polls are not where we see the turnout, though. We'll be able to analyze that a little bit later. That's just raw vote, and anecdotally, yes, the answer is absolutely.
David, what do you think it was? We were just talking a little while ago about the fact that I think we in the press missed the voter engagement. Do you think it was the debates that made the difference?
I think the debates had a great deal to do with it, plus the fact that so many people are suffering because of the recession. They feel that politically something should be done to help them. If everyone were working, everyone had income, they wouldn't worry so much, wouldn't pay so much attention to the politics. They wouldn't care.
Okay, look, because it's early in the evening, let's just keep you up to date, or get you and ourselves up to date with what it is we've called so far this evening. It's only 7:15 in the Eastern time zone. We've got a couple of maps we can give you a sense of what the picture looks like at the moment. Indiana, we have now projected, has been won by President Bush. That's Dan Quayle's home state, as you know, voted Republican in 7 of the last 8 elections, the state they really wanted. We project that Georgia has gone to Governor Clinton. That's 13 electoral votes there. This is Governor Clinton getting into that southern stronghold that the Republicans had 4 years ago. New Hampshire, we award to Governor Clinton. Vermont, we award to Governor Clinton. And there were a number of too close to call. Lynn Sherr was talking about Florida still too close to call, Virginia too close to call, South Carolina too close to call, and Kentucky too close to call. On the Senate side, you haven't seen any surprise?
No, I haven't seen anything new yet. We have seen no surprises because many of them are, as you have heard, too close to call. We can't tell yet because of, as you have been saying, the turnout is so large. It's taking a long time to count them all.
It is partly that, but it's also partly because I think, as we saw in the polls running up until the very end of the evening, in many of these elections, it was going to be too close to call, at least in the days